Well, good evening, everybody, or should I say good afternoon for most of you. I am delighted to have me really in alphabetical order, Andrew Whitehead and Mr. Chad Keller himself, the author of Beyond Avery Road. Good evening, gentlemen.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, I've done a little bit of homework, and by my calculations, Chad, you live approximately 880 miles away from Manitowoc. Is that about right? Because you've driven there.
Yeah,
You've driven there.
about that.
Yep. And Andrew,
It's
I
about
reckon
that.
you live 1,040 miles from Manitowoc
Yeah,
by my calculation. Yep.
it'd be pretty far. Yes.
Yep. And I live 3,600 miles from Manitowoc. And I know people in Australia who live 10,000 miles away from Manitowoc. And, you know, if people on Mars had Netflix, even they could see that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are completely innocent. It's a complete and utter farce to suggest they're anything but. But for me, I wanted to ask Chad a little bit about the political situation there. So I'm just going to come straight out and ask you. When it comes to Tony Evers, Governor Evers, looking at Brendan's possible pardon, right? You've lost your bud, but never mind. It'll go back in. So when it comes to Governor Evers looking into Brendan's case, you okay there, man? Yep. When it comes
you're kind of staticky to me.
Yeah. When it comes to Governor Evers looking at Brendan's case, is he not also going to have to look at Stephen's case?
I couldn't hear you. You're breaking in. You're breaking up on my feed.
No worries. I can hear you now. I think it's better. Let me just go back on that again. Brendan Dassey is looking for Governor Evers to pardon him. In doing that, in looking into Brendan's case, is he not going to have a look at Stephen Avery's case as well in order to get the proper perspective?
Well, we have the problem where the defense separated the two as being co-defendants. So, I mean, it's kind of like the Ryan Ferguson case. If you watched the Dream Murder or the documentary, Ryan Ferguson's friend is still in prison, and Ryan Ferguson is out because you separate the two incidents with a confession. So, I mean, if Stephen Avery walks out on evidence, Brendan Dassey will still be locked up.
But I suppose I could get to the question a bit quicker just by saying that if Tony Evers looks into Brendan's case and looks into Stephen Avery's case, ultimately he is going to have a word with the Attorney General of Wisconsin.
I mean, definitely it should raise some questions, but would they ask those questions at this point?
Right. Okay. What would be problematic about Tony Evers talking to the current Attorney General of Wisconsin about Stephen Avery?
Well, first of all, Josh calls a scumbag. It's just in his blood. So
right. And
so
could there be some vested family interest for Josh Kroll?
I think that he should be recused from the case entirely.
And why would that be?
I mean, being the son of the former Attorney General Peg Leutenschlager, I mean, just natural. I see conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm. And when we finally get down to the bottom of this, when did this case become political? When did this become a political case?
The moment Stephen Avery was exonerated, it became political. Whenever you
Mm-hmm.
have Michael Griesbach contact Attorney General Lautenschlager and him and Mark Rower, the district attorney of Manitowoc, when they went to Madison to the state capitol, you get Deb Strauss, the DCI agent, and Amy LaHan looking into it. That's when it becomes political.
And what?
You have a budget to protect, so.
Yeah. And what do you think caused Michael Griesbach to be, on the one hand, we see him at the beginning of Making a Murderer as this wonderful fella who is exposing all the lies of Manitowoc Sheriff Department and particularly Dennis Vogel. What caused him to change sides?
Well, the interesting thing is the Wisconsin Innocent Project. Attorney General Lautenschlager appointed Griesbach to be a district attorney there to review cases, and I think she had a little word with Griesbach to make sure those sides stay changed. I mean, you hear Fallon speak about to Buden and Strain in the trial to do so at your own peril. So, if they're telling that to just attorneys, what are they telling to the prosecutors and district attorneys of other counties?
Yeah. Okay.
Especially something that was put under a magnifying glass this big. I mean, you had 900 other people that were writing the Wisconsin Innocent Project to go free to review their cases, and 900 people. At that time, there were only 159 cases of exonerees in the nation. And then all of a sudden you have 900 people in 73 Wisconsin counties wanting their cases to be reviewed. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I want to come back to a bit more of that, but I do want to obviously have a bit of input from Andrew. And one of the things that I noticed when I first started doing the YouTube channels was it wasn't long before we got the guilters turn up. Now, I'm sure, Chad, you've had dealings with guilters in the past, yeah?
Too many.
Yeah,
it's a natural occurrence on a daily basis for me.
Yep. Andrew did a video recently. I think was it like yesterday or the day before?
It was. I've done some today and yesterday, so one or the other.
One of them deals with one of my favorite subjects, which is the Zellner challenge.
Right.
Now, for me, if I've got a guilter coming on at me saying, "Oh, well, you've got this wrong, you've got that wrong," I tell him, "Why are you wasting your time telling me this? If you are so sure about what you're on about, that you do realize there's a potential to be $10,000 better off.
Right.
Just politely, please go away, and sometimes not so politely, please go away, and have a word with Zelda and see what she says."
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it was on that video that I had a lady. She commented and she said that there's no way that anybody would falsely confess to a crime that they did not commit. And I told her that was the most ignorant thing that I've ever heard, because this happens all the time. It's we're finding out more and more cases of people that falsely confess to crimes that they didn't commit. And I couldn't believe that. The fact that she believed that what she said was true. She really believes that nobody has ever falsely confessed to a crime that they didn't commit. So we had a little discussion in the comment section, and I essentially told her to just use the internet and the tools to research. And I left her a link to a list of people that had been exonerated and was proven that they falsely confessed. And she pretty much went away after that.
Yeah, I think I mean, Chad, you can maybe keep me right on this. If Brendan had have been released, had have been exonerated, based on the fact that the arm bank had upheld Judge William Duffin's decision, and the state let him go, and it maybe went to SCOTUS, and they also cleared him. I can't come across any other case where somebody has been released based purely on a confession being overturned. I would say what we've found is that there's been hundreds, I think it's 2,000 people have been exonerated, and when they've been exonerated, they discovered that there was a false confession involved. But I've yet to come across any case where somebody's confession and confession alone has got them out of the way. Is that right? Have you come across one?
I'm not aware of any confessions being overturned myself, and that's
No.
what makes it so difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. But so when you've got Attorney Fallon, Assistant Attorney General Fallon, telling the court, and we see that it's one of those, dare I say it, iconic moments of Making a Murderer, when he gets up in court and says, innocent people don't confess. And he also, as Ken Kratz, he comes out with that classic line, reasonable doubt is for innocent people. It's not for the likes of Stephen Brendan. I mean, what on earth are we talking about? What's your take on that? Chad first.
I'm having difficulties hearing you, Paul.
Well, in that case, then, Andrew, you have a stab at that one, and we'll get back to Chad.
My feed is cutting. My feed is cutting in and out. I apologize.
Well, I would suspect it's got something to do with the fact that you're sort of on some sort of ridge going sort of that way horizontally, but not to worry. So, Andrew, what do you make of Fallon and his statement?
Well, essentially he said that nobody that's innocent would have confessed, right?
Yeah.
And in most cases, if you're dealing with normal people with normal IQs, people would find that hard to believe in itself. But even people with normal IQs have falsely confessed to crimes they didn't commit. With the right amount of pressure applied, it can be done. But in particular, juvenile with someone that has the disabilities that Brendan has, you can see it for yourself. As we all have in the interrogation videos, he was swayed into that whole thing, and he didn't even realize what he was confessing to. And another thing I was telling my wife or somebody, I was saying, another way that this gets done a lot is, let's say all of the evidence points at one person, and the investigators tell, this person, look, all the evidence is pointing towards you. We know you did it. You're going down for it. And let's say they're completely innocent. Well, their attorneys in a lot of situations will tell them, look, you're if we don't take the plea deal, that you're probably going to go down for this crime, because if it goes to trial, a jury is going to believe that you did it because all the evidence is pointing at you. And a lot of people, believe it or not, have taken plea deals to crimes that they have not committed, but lack the evidence to prove their innocence.
Oh yeah, I mean you've got and I don't want to. I've had guilties. I can tell they're guilties because they've questioned me about why am I so interested in what's going on in Wisconsin, and it's very easy for us outside of America to look at the justice system or the injustice system in America and poke at various aspects of what's going on there. I would say, first of all, who has described Brendan's confession as a confession? I wouldn't describe it as being a confession in the first place anyway. It is simply him not having the ability to resist and to argue against what they're telling him. So Regan and Fassbender, that they get so little from Brendan. Everything is fed to him. He makes up one or two things in his head, things that he does know about, things that have happened and previously. There was nothing. There was nothing that Brendan confesses to. He doesn't confess. Hell, he doesn't even think he's confessed himself, because he's saying, can I get back to school? I've got this project due. They say we've got to arrest you. So he's thinking, okay, well, is that just for a day?
Yeah.
So even in Brendan's mind, he doesn't know. He didn't think it's a confession. All he's done is had a chat with the police.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was confessing against him or her, and is properly able to assist in his or her defense. Well, right there, it tells you, does he understand the consequences of what he's confessing to? No. And is he able to assist in his defense? I would say no. Mm-hmm. And going back to what you was talking about with the guilters, I oftentimes in situations like this, the people say that we are the conspiracy theorists. We're the ones that live in a false reality. And in fact,
conspiracy theorists. I've heard that word before.
Not only that, but we're part of some cult.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And
in fact, they are in this case, they are the guilters are the ones that live in the alternate reality, because I've noticed, for instance, the lady saying that nobody ever has, admitted to doing something they didn't do. And then I had a guy arguing with me on Facebook. He was saying that, it happens all the time where people touch all kind of items and never leave a fingerprint. He said he could borrow my car all day long for 24 hours and he wouldn't leave one. That is a possibility that he wouldn't leave one single fingerprint anywhere on the car. I mean, they are living in an alternate reality.
So I guess that would be his excuse why there's no Teresa's fingerprints on her own key.
Oh, well, yeah. Or for that matter,
if you ask that guy,
right.
Yeah, it's people. I get it. People believe what they want to believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of human nature, and one of the things
it's easier to fool a person besides telling them they've been fooled. I mean, you can fool them easier than telling them that they've been fooled.
Yeah. Well,
nobody wants to believe you. So.
No. Well, everybody wants to believe the police, and look, all police aren't bad. Police do a good job all across the country, but you have to keep an open mind, because there are times when the police are wrong. There are times when police plant evidence. So you have to look at everything right down the middle. You can't just say they're all bad, and you can't say they're all good. And I think a lot of people are stuck on the police don't do anything wrong no matter what.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, we're humans, so I mean, you're gonna have that in any profession, anybody. When you put a human in office anywhere, we're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah. And Chad, I would suggest that it's also a case of when they're dealing with they're under pressure to get bad guys off the street. Basically, that's their job. They feel it personally, and it becomes a problem in general. I mean, not terrible in this case, really off the charts in this case, but in general, the question is, when do they bend the rules and when do they break the rules? When do they go too far? I mean, this case is just going to blow up in their faces when people realize just what's been going on in this case.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'll tell you what, to your question, when you just asked, when do they bend the rules? They bend the rules when the district attorney's office, the whole sheriff's department, everybody's under the spotlight, and some of them are up for $36 million.
Oh yeah, of course they do. That's absolutely, absolutely. What, Chad? You've you've mentioned this before, and I keep having to go over this again and again and again with people. Could you just go over this business of why did Steve have to settle for 400,000?
Well, it's interesting that he does settle out for 400,000. The Mark Gundrum had, it all goes before legislation. Okay, and they actually voted to give Stephen Avery $460,000 through legislation that was tax free, his, money, and all of a sudden, you're coming up with a $400,000 settlement for him. All right, and what I find interesting is that Stephen Glenn initiated that settlement whenever Stephen Avery gets locked up. If you go back and listen to the phone call, he's like, "Hey, we're trying to make a one-time deal with the state right now to get you $400,000 and settle this so you can have an attorney." And that was never discussed with Stephen Avery whatsoever. Stephen Avery calls into Stephen Glenn's office, and he's just being told, "Hey, we're trying to get you money for attorneys." But they're making a quote one-time deal with the state. Either take it or leave it. We're only doing it one time.
And what I find fascinating is that, forgive me if I'm wrong about this, but of that 400,000, 160,000 of that goes to Steve Glynn and Walt Kelly for their work in exonerating Steve.
Right. Well, I believe 60,000 of it got sent to Dennis Vogel's insurance agent off the top because once legislation appoints a money to a allotted place, you cannot go and spend that money for anything else. So they just sit on the money because Stephen Avery filed his $36 million civil suit. So they're like, hold on, we're not going to give them this right here. So then the $400,000, is split between Stephen Glenn, Walt Kelly, Jerry Buden, and Dean Strang.
Well, I mean, my maths might not be as good as Erico's is, but I reckon that 160,000 of 400,000 is 40%. And Dean and Jerry got 60%.
We'll just
do
say
your math real quick, Paul.
So, well, no, I know the dude is like really shit up when it comes to maths, mathematics or math as you call it. In I can't get my mind around that. But anyway, the point being that why would Steve Glynn and Walt Kelly settle for 40% of 400,000 when they are looking at 40% of, okay, not 36 million, but it could easily have been 5 to 7 million. Why are they settling?
Well, here's the funny thing on that, Paul. Thank you, MAM Foul Play Talk, for uploading all the phone calls here lately. But Stephen Glenn actually tells Stephen Avery it's a good thing that we settled out because no jury was going to give him any amount of money if he took it to trial for the federal civil suit. Now, if I'm in Stephen Avery's position, I think it would have been better going to this federal trial because you're blaming Manitowoc County for your wrongful conviction, and now you're blaming Manitowoc County for framing you. Okay, yeah. And I think that would have been a stronger case to have 4 attorneys, Strang, Buden, Glenn, and Kelly going on into the federal civil suit, and that way you could have got more money. But Stephen Glenn is sitting there telling Stephen Avery, it's a good thing that we did settle out because no jury was going to give him any money. And I think that's absolutely the opposite. Now you have to think at this time. The charter statement for the Criminal Justice Study Commission that Stephen Glenn sat on with Jerry Buding. Their charter statement was they could not point fingers at Manitowoc County for the 1985 wrongful conviction.
Yeah.
And part of Stephen Avery's settlement was he had to say that Manitowoc County was no longer responsible for that conviction. And so Stephen Glenn brings him this settlement of $400,000, and he's like, "Here, sign here." But that money is already his. It's already Stephen Avery's tax free. It's already his money.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. What you're saying, but I mean, if you're in Stephen Avery's position, if you're pursuing this civil suit and you've got this other case against you, if you're going to get shafted by the state, you might as well get properly shafted rather than just half shafted. And they give you a paltry sum to excuse my French, to piss against the wall and do nothing with.
Right.
Because that's basically what happened.
I'll tell you something else that's really interesting, Paul, is now Mark Gundrum created the Avery Task Force to prevent tunnel vision. Okay? I mean, we all know who Mark Gundrum is. We all know who the Avery Task Force. Now, it's funny because Stephen Avery is arrested on November 9th, okay? And November 12th, we have Governor Jim Doyle signing the Avery bill, which becomes the Criminal Justice Reforms Package bill, okay? Mark Gundrum gets in the press, and he is already convinced of Stephen Avery's guilt. He says, "I'd like to apologize to the Hallback family, and it's so horrific what Stephen Avery has done to Teresa Hallback." And this is 3 days after his November 9th arrest, and we don't even have the remains back from the state crime lab nor the FBI at this time. That the remains wouldn't come back till January 19th of 2006. And Mark Gundrum is sitting there saying, "Oh, it's such a sick, sadistic thing what Stephen Avery has done to this girl." I'm like, dude, he's only arrested for possession of a firearm right now. How are you accusing him of murdering Teresa Hallback when he hasn't even been gone to trial yet? You just created the Avery Task Force, to stop this type of pretrial guilt from happening. I mean, it's only 3 days. So here we have whoever's in law enforcement at the state capitol level in Madison. You had Tom Fassbender, you have Fallon, you have Peg Lautenschlager. These people are telling these politicians without a doubt that all the evidence is pointing back to Stephen Avery. They're manipulating it in Madison at the state capitol level. Even Stephen Glenn in an interview in 2011 with Super Lawyer magazine, he says that the morning that he woke up, when everything started pointing at Stephen Avery, he said he wished he could just pull the covers over his head and go back to sleep.
Right. Okay. There's always, Andrew, a moment of levity. Could you please explain? I take it that the Saints are playing the 49ers tomorrow.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about it though. The 49ers are dang good.
They are, because they hammered the Packers, didn't they?
Yeah, and the Ravens last week.
Yeah, and Mr. Keller, who is your preferred American football team?
Well, they lost to the Ravens. Sorry,
our Bulldogs are playing in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium right now in Atlanta against LSU, and
that's college football, isn't it? That's college football, isn't it?
College football.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the championship before the big one, but LSU is going to destroy us. I mean, Jesus, I'm so sad, so sad. But see, I'm smart when it comes to gambling. You never bet on your home team, so at least I'll make some money off of them losing.
No, but who's your sort of big league team? Who's your favorite? Who do you support when it comes to the?
I love the Saints. I mean, the Saints are are a really, really, really strong team. Yeah, Saints.
Yeah.
Saints
All right. Okay.
I'm not real happy with the Falcons this year.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Oh, well.
They beat three of the hardest teams in the NFL and then lose to everybody else. It's like, what the hell is going on with
The
y'all?
Saints been doing that for 40 years.
Yeah.
Well,
Since Michael Vick decided to play pit bullfighting, I mean, the Falcons really have had a tough time. We've had a couple of Super Bowl turnouts and show ups, and we're always a good wild card. But I think it's time to fire our head coach this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh dear. So, what are the chances of it being a Packers versus Saints Super Bowl then?
I think that they're both in the NFC, so they wouldn't be able to. They'd have to meet in the playoffs.
That's a bit stupid, really, isn't it?
It kind of it works.
All right. Okay.
It's just the conference system.
While we brought up the Green Bay Packers right now, I find it very odd that Mike Hallback, he's the director of football technology for the Packers, okay? And he's making a 6-figure income right now and has been for the past 4 years. He's been there for 15 years, but the past 4, he's been paying 6 figures as the director of football technology. And all these people sit here and support Stephen Avery, yet turn around and then go support a Green Bay Packers game. These people supporting Stephen Avery need to make some noise and boycott the Packers until the truth comes out about Lautenschlager securing Mike Hallback's career with the Packers prior to Teresa Hallback disappearing. I mean, these people. But you can't tell Wisconsin supporters nothing when it comes to the Packers. I mean, they're like the franchise team of the NFL, and but you figured that some people would oppose it.
But also,
as long as Mike Hallback's there.
Yeah, I also get the sense though that like really should we be hijacking sport and sort of saying make sport because
Stephen Avery fans should get posters and run around Lambeau Field buck ass naked and say fucking investigate Mike Hallback now and keep running around. They can't arrest you all, okay? Get on the field, run around, scream to high heaven, get something done.
Or if all of them just brought, posters talking about it. I mean, it would overwhelm the coverage of the game. All of the cameras wouldn't be able to keep, stop showing all these different Stephen Avery posters on the camera. I mean, even something like that.
Yeah,
right. I mean, if you just boycott the Packers until Mike Hallback's, the Hallback family, even the Attorney General's contact with the Hallback family prior to Teresa Hallback being allegedly murdered. I mean, this is like important stuff that needs to be out in the open.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. I cannot disagree with that. What does concern me though, as a sports fan, is I'm not a great fan of using sport as a way of trying to get a message across. But what I would concede with you is that I'm well aware of the fact that the state would quite happily abuse sport if it suited them.
Oh yeah.
If it suited them to do something, then I quite get the fact that they would happily do that.
I kind of agree with you about not, abusing the sport with that. I see what he's saying as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What I did want to touch on with you is we were talking about guilters, and to me they are a waste of space. I mean, Chad, can you remember Thomas Hens?
Oh, don't even get me started with Thomas. Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. Charles Darwin, I think we've discovered that is just another name for Ken Katz. I think we've busted him a long time ago. That is Ken Kratz. So to me, guilt is a waste of space. But one thing that and I had somebody write a comment somewhere. I can't remember what it was, and they said, "Look, Paul, I like the fact that no subject is taboo." And I really would like to get your perspective on this. And that is that for me, I think it's difficult at times being truthers. We don't all get on with one another all the time. Now, forgive me for saying this, but I understand, Chad, that you've maybe ruffled the odd feather from time to time of one or two people. Would that be a fair thing to say? And I can tell it's true because you've got that grin on your face. Okay, but
ruffle the feathers.
Exactly, but we're all on the same side. What I'm gonna ask though is, do you think it's mainly because of the hurt that we feel seeing people being wrongfully convicted, that we feel so strongly about it, that it's just one of those things. There are going to be people who don't necessarily get on with everybody else. I'm just interested in what your sort of perception of that would be, Chad and Andrew, if you've had any negativity from truthers.
Go ahead, Chad. I don't know if he can hear us.
Sorry?
Can Chad hear us?
It sounds like I'm watching like futuristic robots bleep 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 bleep, bleep back and forth. It's y'all are cutting in and out.
No worries. I was trying to say about the fact that we've got one or two truthers that from time to time they have the odd fallout. But I just wonder what your thoughts on what causes that. Is it because we're simply so annoyed at the situation that Steve and Brendan find themselves in?
Well, I believe a lot of people are just passionate about this case because we have a strong bond and a strong self-awareness of humanity. I mean, you don't want something like this to happen to you or your family or friends or loved ones. And so I think a lot of people, they just become passionate about it. And so if you go against the grain, I mean, it could probably, I mean, it's no secret that it can be a heated discussion, you know? I mean, and there has been some heat, let me tell you. There's been a lot of heat.
Yeah, it's I've even fallen out temporarily with the odd truther.
I mean, I've seen like take Thomas Hintz for example. I mean, Thomas was on the fence of Stephen and Brendan being innocent, and then he went innocent, and then he hopped back over to being guilty. But man, there was some strong words exchanged in that situation. And again, I think it's the passion.
Yeah, I actually spent a lot of time chatting with Hentz, and it just got to the stage where, funny enough, it was what we were talking earlier about, you know, with this Zellner challenge. I just said to him, "Look, Thomas, if you are this so sure of yourself, if you really are the doubting Thomas that you are, just piss off, leave me alone, and just go and tell Zellner, you know, just go and take on her challenge and just tell her, you know, she's stupid, she's got it all wrong, you know, and we can all go home because you busted the case wide open and proven that Stephen and Brendan are guilty, you know." It just, well, the dude's busy chatting away here, and I will just highlight one of his comments. Everybody go check out the trailer for the $50 million bullet on my channel when you are done here? Well, all I can say is that could be in another 3 hours. So don't hold your breath, okay? I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
But to
So
go back to what you was just saying, Mr.
yeah,
Paul,
yeah,
I think one of the reasons why uh, we care so much is because we don't want to see innocent people suffering in prison for something that they didn't do.
yeah.
And I started researching a while back. I forgot the guy's name. That's what I was trying to look up, but I couldn't find it. But I was researching just the phrase "innocent until proven guilty." And Stephen, in my opinion, and everybody else's that believe like we do, he never had the presumption of innocence in this second case. Well, I started reading about innocent until proven guilty, and they said that that phrase is based off an ancient philosopher that stated, and I forgot his name, but he stated that it is better for 10 guilty men to go free than one innocent man to suffer. And
Absolutely.
that basically sums it up, that
Yeah,
it should be high priority that no innocent person their freedom is and dignity is taken away from them, and they're put in a cage for something that they didn't do.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna apologize in advance for making him blush. But one of the reasons I am such a fan of Chad is because Chad knows exactly what it's like to be wrongfully imprisoned. Isn't that right, mate? And when you got people that okay, as you would say, and you've ruffled a few feathers. I think it's so important that people remember, you know, where are you coming from? What's sort of what's making you passionate about it? Hats off to you, Chad. You've been look. I've been on this about 4 years now. It can't be 4 years, maybe 3.5 years. And I've got huge respect for you because I think you're a great guy. We share a lot of laughs together outside of the community, don't we?
We
And
we we've had
I,
our
yeah, yeah. And what I would say is keep doing what you're doing because we are all heading in the right direction, aren't we? We're all truthers. We all want to see this case resolved. It's a huge political problem. I can't see. Well, we, sorry, I was going to say I know that Zelna, although she can't say anything at the moment, she knows it's all political. I would say. I mean, you've already told me she's got your book. She's read your opinions on what the hell's going on here, hasn't she?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't see how she could not see as political at this point.
Well, she even
I
said
mean,
that in Making Murder too, didn't she?
I was trying to explain in a group
Yeah.
the other day that, like, okay, so if you take a piece of string and you cut it in half, you have one beginning and you have the ending of the string. So you got two sides. And it's like they take that string and they drop all the evidence on the Avery salvage yard. Just drop it. But there's a beginning of how and why all that evidence needs to get there. Okay,
Hmm.
and if you believe that Stephen Avery was framed for his $36 million or this Teresa Hallback thing, then you have to pick up the first part of that string, and the first part of that string can only be found in Madison at the state capitol. I mean, why do you send in Fassbender to babysit Mark Wiegert, and why do you send in Fallon to babysit Ken Kratz in the
Yeah.
pretrial and the trial stages? I mean,
Yeah.
we have the top cops, number one guys that Fallon's desk was in Lautenschlager's office, and then Fassbender's desk is right across the hall, like literally across the hall in the
Hmm.
Madison DCI. And so you also got to remember that DCI tells the Division of Criminal Investigation tells a huge lie and they say they do not get involved into this case until November 5th, when the when the RAV4 is found on the Avery salvage yard. But yet Detective Remaker calls the DCI on the night of the 3rd.
Yeah.
On November 3rd, they call. And when Teresa's just a missing person at this point, why are you calling the Division of Criminal Investigations on the 3rd? You just reported her missing, 3:00 in the afternoon. So 5 hours later, around 8:30, 9 o'clock, Remaker is on the bullhorn saying, "Hey, we need some help," and I just don't get it. So yeah, it's pretty political, especially for Mark Gundrum to be convinced of Avery's guilt 3 days after he's arrested, and we don't even have the cremains tested on any of the evidence that has been found. And that's sad because he's the person who started the Avery Task Force, so there wouldn't be tunnel vision. And here we got a pre-trial case at the state capitol level, and they're already convinced of Stephen Avery's guilt. So someone who put that evidence on Avery Road, you got to go back and pick that piece of string up at the state capitol level and figure out why it got there and who's controlling the shots, who's calling the shots. And that would be Attorney General Lautenschlager. I mean, you're protecting the bullet item FL that's found off camera in Stephen Avery's garage just like hours after Brendan Dassey is coerced into a confession. And it's found off camera. I mean, like it's not even found on camera. And it's not there in any other of the photos.
Yeah.
None of them.
Lying on dust that was created by, them digging up the floor of the garage, digging up that crack.
Item FL never went through a human body. I mean,
no.
Regardless if you had 100% proof that Stephen Avery killed Teresa Halbach, that bullet never went through a body. I've never understood how you could submit that evidence when it never went through a body.
Right, and especially whenever they supposedly bleached the garage, but yet there's no bleach on the bullet. And if you're in a crack, if you found this bullet fragment in a crack, bleach usually traces cracks in a garage. Any type of liquid would take the shape of what it's traveling through. So why did not bleach come in contact with this bullet if they supposedly cleaned out this garage and stuff? I mean, there's the DNA would be gone, everything.
I never understood why, if they would bleach and go through all the care to clean up everything else, why would you not clean up those few blood spots that you left in the car and clean up her blood for that matter? I mean, it makes no sense.
Actually, Chad, now I've got you on. Can you just explain something you mentioned to me a while back about two things? One, the fact that there's something about the bullet that makes it ineligible for any kind of testing because it wasn't on a .22, was not a bullet that could be tested on some charts or something. But also something about the fact that would it not have rusted in those if it was just lying there?
Okay, so the .22 long rifle shell is made out of a nickel composite and another metal that if it laid there from November or October 31st till March 2nd on the day they found it, it would have deteriorated in the weather, and that's why it was not allowed to go through the nibbing process. They prohibit it because the deterioration of the bullet itself, like the composite of not only that, but the even actual sleeve of the bullet, the jacket of it, but it would deteriorate both, and so when you get this tool and hammer, this tool and die expert that's doing the bullet analysis on this, and he says that he matches the bullets from the garage to the Marlin Glenfield rifle. I mean, you're trying to tell me that you're better than the Nibbin database, which they won't even allow .22 rifles in there because the composite material. It's insane because Nibbin would not allow .22 rifle bullets or pistol to go through its database until 2009, and then Wisconsin didn't even get the technology to test those until 2014. And this is 9 years later, and Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen is saying we now have the technology to test long rifle 22 and pistol shell casings and fragments, bullet fragments, but yet it's 9 years later. So this guy that the state picks out to do the analysis on these bullet fragments and the shell casings in your case, I mean, it was shit. His analysis was shit. You're not better than Niven, and I mean this is the top technology at the time, and they're not even letting 22 rifles process. So how are you better than a scientific machine? You're not.
Yeah. Let's just finish off, because you've been here for 50 minutes, guys. I just want to show you and put up on screen some of the comments that we've had, and I think this first one is for you, Andrew.
Okay, thank you.
I think the channel is doing pretty well. What are you up to now, subscriber-wise?
Well, I just got started a few weeks ago, but I think I up to 130 or something. But it's coming along.
Yeah. Here's one for Chad. Would you trust him? I wouldn't trust him.
No, I wouldn't. No.
No. Would you trust him, Chad?
Do I trust Greaseback, man? Don't even ask me that. Don't even ask me that question, Paul.
Okay, let's see what have we got. What have we got? We've got some here's. Well, we've got one here. Interesting comment. Ma'am,
making a murder was Teresa Hallbeck slaughtered like a lamb.
Well, if my take on this, guys, is that for me, either Manitowoc Sheriff's Department did it themselves, or they got somebody from their assassination unit to do it, i.e. a member of the public, or it was highly convenient. As Mill Billy was on yesterday and was pointing out that, for us, it's a case of Mike Osmondson, we do know, did not like Steve at all, because Steve was having, he was friendly, shall we say, very friendly with Marie, who Mike Osmondson also liked. But I'm one of these guys, I can't see past the fact that this was too convenient for Manitowoc Sheriff's Department to be a lucky coincidence that this photographer goes missing just after she's been to see Stephen Avery. Thoughts on that, guys?
Well,
they. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chad. I'll come right after. Go
ahead, Chad. They have what I call the look down effect. You look down, there's bones. You look down, there's a bullet. You look down, there's a key. I mean everything. You had 200 law enforcement personnel plus emergency responders on this salvage yard, and the only people that are finding evidence is close family related to Hallbeck, or Andy Colburn and James Link, or the DCI. And then you got to go back to Thomas Fassbender's letter to Sherry Cohan. It says, put her in his garage. And to me, I mean, that's building a case against somebody. They bring it up, and it's like, oh yeah, that's just normal. We would want to be looking for any evidence instead. No, you said put her in his garage. You used the word put. You didn't say look for evidence in the garage. You said put her in his garage.
Yeah.
And I mean, So yeah, it's all the look down effect, and you're finding you're not documenting you're not documenting the bones, you're not documenting the item FL, and then what boggles my mind is as nosy as Pam and Nicole Sturm is, you only get six freaking photos when they're standing on the Avery salvage yards for an hour waiting for police once they call. It took an hour for police to arrive to the Avery salvage yard, and there's only six photos from Pam Stern and Nicole. You know, like as nosy as they are, there should be like 100 photos. They'd be like still snapping whenever they show up. So
Yeah.
so I find it that, you know, whatever camera device Pam Stern had, she already had the SD card with photos on it that was given to her, and she was just supposed to submit it. And it's concealment of the RAV4, and that's the only part of that story they wanted to tell, was that the RAV4 was concealed onto the property.
Every time,
How do we only get six photos? Someone explain that. Six photos.
every time that the evidence is found, it seems like it's by Manitowoc. I mean, they should have never. I still to this day I don't understand how any officer from Manitowoc County was allowed on the property to do any searching. But that's besides the point. One thing that with the evidence that always has, I just can't get it out of my mind. Every time I think about it, it
Right.
stuns me.
It,
One thing that stuns me is that. Go ahead, Chad.
It's a good thing you bring that up, because the way I was told, Lautenschlager recuses herself from any part of the case because she made the December 17th, 2003 report to protect Manitowoc. And then Tom Fowling comes over as a special prosecutor in the case, but he can't come in until March of 2006 because he was deposed in Stephen Avery's civil suit. So you know, they're bringing up Peg Lautenschlager's report in the civil suit, and then they got Tom Fallon's deposition in the civil suit. So Stephen Avery has to settle out in February before he shows up in March to be part of the special prosecution. So how do you explain Deb Strauss, Link, and Colburn remaining on the case when they were deposed, all of them? I mean, shouldn't the top cop set the standard for the rightful removal of these officers from this case? If they're going to remove themselves and not even let Tom Fallon come on until March 2006, Link, Colburn, and Deb Strauss, they should have been out of the equation,
Right.
you know.
Really,
but they're not. So there's no standard.
Really, everybody should have been out of the equation. They should have had, they should have never even been involved at any step. But when they're all of this evidence, there's nobody that's going to convince me that you searched that trailer numerous times and didn't find anything, and then all of a sudden you find the key, and then you search that garage, didn't find anything, and then all of a sudden you find the bullet. Well, one thing that I've always thought about is, when the lady's going through his trailer with the camera and she sees the letter laying down from I think it was the Innocent Project, and she's like, well, I don't think he's going to be able to make it. You can hear the hatred that they have for this person. And you know when they went in his trailer to do a thorough search, they're not going to go in there and be delicate with all of his things. I guarantee you they turned that trailer upside down, and there's nobody on this earth that's going to convince me that key wasn't planted.
Yeah.
Right. And she's talking about, oh, he's not going to make it. And then she's like, oh, all these shoes, let's test them for shoe
no
prints.
Presumption of innocence.
What the hell is
no
wrong?
Presumption of innocence.
This is tunnel vision.
Yep.
Right. This is tunnel vision. This is what we're trying to prevent, is stupid officers like that. This is what gets people locked up. This is what gets people, presumed guilty prior to their trial.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Not only let's take these shoes, but even if they don't fit, we'll make them fit these various crimes.
Yeah.
I've got a few more comments I wanted to show you. This one from Hi girl, no, sorry, that's not the one. It's the one.
Bye, girl.
No,
Bye, Felicia.
Rose was saying goodbye to one of the other commentators. Hundreds of people confess when they're innocent. I would say thousands.
Yeah.
I would say thousands of people.
It's not only that they're confessing. Okay, you have public defenders who will scare you into taking a case to trial. They say, hey, you need to confess to something lesser, even though you might be innocent. But I'm a public defender, and I don't have the experience to go against a trial prosecutor. So in our nation, we actually have public defenders that will get people to plead out just to save money on trials and say, okay, so you might have a homicide, but let's do it a second degree, and you plead and you take a different. And so people are forced into confession to something lesser just so they won't lose at trial, and they're being scared into these confessions.
This
Yes.
is kind of the
They're
same
being
thing
scared
you
into plea deals.
It's kind of the same thing you was talking about with Stephen Avery's money. You know, they just they say, well, look, if you go before a trial, you probably won't get any money. So let's take this.
Right.
It's kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
Right, and they're trained. I mean, that's what they're do. They're trained to make sure the state budget, for the Department of Justice falls in their margin what they need every year.
Yeah.
In Georgia, I don't know how they do it in your states, but in Georgia, like if you fail a dirty drug test, they pay a probation officer $450 just to send a person back to jail, because states money is paying $110 per incarcerated inmate in the county jail, so they're getting like a percentage to send you back to jail. That's why they're springing up drug tests left and right on people.
Yeah.
So I mean they get incentives to send you into jail.
That's definitely a lot of corruption.
Yeah. I think this was in response to the fact that you've got people who are arguing, guilters arguing. They really don't. For me, a lot of guilters they don't actually want. They accuse us of being duped by a documentary, but they don't want to accept the fact that they were duped themselves.
Right.
Anyway, moving on to Mr. Millbilly, who was with me yesterday. Manufactured evidence. Well, we know that. And it starts with the RAV. And Millbilly also...
They wouldn't manufacture evidence now, Millbilly. Come on. No such thing happened in this case.
And he was
nothing at all.
The RAV, to me, is the most important part of evidence. To me, I think you could persuade anybody, well, most people, that's planted. I mean, it's clear to see. But the RAV is, to me, even over the bones and the bullet, to me, the bullet's nothing. But the RAV is that's where it all started. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But even with the RAV, you can clearly see that evidence is planted. I just did a video today showing what all Stephen Avery would have touched if everything happened like the state said it did. And I counted like 17, 18 items that didn't have DNA, didn't have touch DNA, and didn't have blood on it that should have if it happened the way the state said it did.
Yeah. A comment for all you Saints fans.
Yeah. Well, Julie, please, if you're gonna support the Packers, at least bring up Hallback's involvement with Attorney General Lautenschlager, and start questioning how Mike Hallback was secured the Packers job. I mean, you had thousands of people, go put in applications for this career.
Yeah.
This is the NFL. Brett Favre's highlight career, and you're giving the Green Bay Packers video assistant job to a 24-year-old kid. When these people had like 20 decades of experience in communication, but yet you give it to a 24-year-old kid. prior to Teresa Hallback disappearing. Now, I have a big problem with that. I mean,
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
right.
What else did I find it? I'm finding this difficult sometimes to control. It whizzes up and down. Apologies for that.
She says, I do let people know Mike Hallback works for the Packers. Well,
Yes.
Julie, you have to boycott the Packers until this is resolved. Okay, you got it. I'll tell you a secret, Julie. Okay, so the Packers NFL team was started with racketeering money, and they come in and did a big bust on the Packers way back when NFL was being started, and so they wanted to know who owned the team. So they said, "Oh, our entire state owns the team," so no one would be charged with the racketeering funds, and then automatically everything just disappears. All the racketeering dollars just fades away. So Packers, a lot of these board members and directors that sit here have a lot of influence politically to Josh Call right now, to Tony Evers. So think about that when you're supporting the Green Bay Packers, because the Wisconsin Department of Justice, they're getting a huge cut of money to sweep Stephen Avery's stuff under the rugs right now. So that's why I'm cautioning everybody to boycott them, because you're just supporting. You can't scream help for Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, then help allocate money for the Green Bay Packers to pay for the politics, to sweep the truth under the rug. That's what you're doing, and you don't understand it. So call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but that's how it works.
Sorry, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Richie Mills, I hate the Packers too, but I love football.
Good for you, Richie. I can't stand the Packers, and I was glad whenever what's his name broke his collarbone, the quarterback. But I was
Aaron Rodgers.
I was only glad because I wanted to go sign like his neck brace and put Michael Hallback, investigate him now. That's what I wanted to write on it with his Sharpie. So every time he was in the news, they'd be like, "Wait, who's this Mike Hallback guy? Don't he work for us?"
No, it just goes mad for a moment. I was looking for a particular comment, and I thought I saw one there. Forgive me, I'm jogging this screen around. Where is he gone? No, I can't seem to find him. He must be here somewhere. Bear with me.
Look, this train has derailed in the mall.
Yeah? What's caused that, do you think? No, I can't find it. Where was it?
It was swept under the rug by the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Paul. They deleted it real quick.
I think it was. I think it has been. I think it's been. As you say, it's gone. I was looking for
that comment. The whole thing will be changed and rearranged from what you remember from now on.
Right, here's a comment, and I'm not sure what that means.
Laughing my ass off.
Never.
Yeah.
What is he laughing his ass off? That's what I know. Why is his ass not here chatting with us? Anyway, I don't care. I don't care. He's busy doing other stuff apparently. So anyway, let's right. I think we've covered all the comments, and I would like to obviously thank everybody that's been here. And if we didn't highlight one or two people's comments that maybe we should have done, then apologies. Because one of the things I would like to say to everybody out there is, I think you all know me on Facebook. You can all private message me. I would love at some point in the future, not too distant future, to have some of the other people commenting on the video come and join me for a chat. And this platform StreamYard, you can have up to 6 people. And believe it or not, the dude himself only counts as one. I know he's a big fella, but he only counts as one. Isn't that right, Chad? So therefore,
That's right.
I would like to ask anybody out there in the chats if you would like to come on and give us your perspective of things. We will we'd love to see you come on board. I must thank, because I've kept you for over an hour now, I must thank Chad. You've been and by the way, very smart. I love the new shirt and jacket. Am I rubbing off on you? And Andrew, keep doing your videos. Keep doing your videos. Yeah. Where's the best place to get your comments, Chad, on the case, the book?
Best place.
You talking to me?
Yeah. Will you leave a link to how people?
I'll leave a link. I'll leave a link in your comments.
That's good. Good. Okie dokie. Well, I'm going to say,
and I gotta wear the suit because your street cred keeps going up. I mean, to be getting your name up all the way over in Scotland, you're doing good.
Hey,
I can't just show up homeless anymore.
If you're really lucky, I might send you a tie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, send me a tie.
I'll send you a tie. Okay, guys. Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody for joining in and coming up and posting your comments and having a listen. So anyway, I'm going to say cheerio, and we'll catch you again soon. Bye for now.